Nothing is finalised again. We continue to think of ways to do that, to continue supporting everyone. And we have a YouTube channel, and all our past webinars are on that YouTube channel. Have I missed anything there, either John or Nick, or do I hand over to Nick now for Zoom etiquette?
You can hand over to me if you like.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, so anybody who hasn't been on Zoom before, very, very simple. Down in the left-hand side of your screen, there is a little microphone with mute underneath it. If you click on that, then it will either mute or unmute you, which enable you to talk or not talk. And next to it is also stop video. So you can turn your video off, because we are recording this and they are available on our blog on the FSA website. So if you don't want to appear on the video, if you speak, then turn off your camera. You can do that by clicking on the little camera button. And then finally, you'll also have a little chat bubble, and it's worth popping that up on the side, because you'll see what people are saying. And also, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, and hopefully Louise and John and Matt we'll be able to field them through, and if Jen and Elsa have a chance to answer your questions, they can do. And we're going to go into breakout rooms tonight, so and have a discussion about sites. So you will be assigned to a breakout room. If you have any problems, then stay in the main room and I will sort you out, or you can just chat to me, because I get very lonely in there.
Also, Nick, is it worth saying that what goes on in the breakout rooms isn't recorded? It's just these bits where we're all together in the main room that's recorded.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, we didn't think that your discussions should be recorded, because they are your personal views, so they're not recorded.
Okay.
And that's me.
Thank you, Nick. It is my very great pleasure to welcome Jen and Elsa, and say a huge thank you already for all the time that you've given us in preparing for this webinar. And I'm just going to hand straight over to you to introduce yourselves and take it away.
Okay. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here this evening. I'm Jen Hurst, Head of Forest Education at Sylva Foundation, which is a national forestry charity based in Oxfordshire. But firstly and most proudly, I'm a forest school leader and have been for 7 years, and it's my absolute passion. Elsa?
And I'm Elsa Field. I am a PhD student, just finishing my PhD now in forest management and forest ecology, tree health themes. And I've also been an intern at Sylva and worked on various education projects with Jen.
Yep. So yeah, it's been a great chance to come back and work together. So thanks for this.
So Jen, do you want to just jump straight in and tell us about your experience over the last month or so with your site?
Yeah, well, when we were planning this webinar, I was chatting to John and various other folks at FSA about, the lockdown has meant many things for all of us, but as forest school leaders managing a site, some of us may have already walked into a site that's been untouched for 6 weeks or 3 months. Some of us might not be able to get into our sites. Some of us may have been continuing our practice in our site. So we've got a diversity here tonight, I'm aware of that. But perhaps one of the themes, obviously being spring as well when the lockdown happened, is it could be looking wilder than usual out there. And we were really interested in the concept of this wildness on our sites, in nature, and also for ourselves reflecting on our practice and where we've been during lockdown. So we want to bring those two things into our discussions tonight. I'm going to start with the practical side, and what we thought we'd do is, as we're probably a lot of us are not always naturally on a screen for much of our days, and here we are on Zoom, is we'd just sort of take us into a forest school site to start the session. So this is Helen from Worcester. She's got a site right in the middle of the town, and Elsa's got a film clip, so just relax and watch where Helen's going to take us.
And then here is our path. It was all bramble like that when we started out. And then we cut back 1 metre to start with, which wasn't enough. So this path has been cut for 2.5 years now, and was very much like the one we just saw. But now, by cutting back 2 metres wide, we get to fruiting and flowering right at our sides. So we can walk down here and hear the bees, see the bees, and at night time smell the bramble flowers. And then obviously in autumn we get the fruit too. But the most exciting thing is what's happened down here. We just had rosebay, willow herb and ivy the first year, and bramble. And now you'll see plantain, no, dock, and thistles, beautiful dead nettles. Can't remember what you are, but you're gorgeous. Cleavers, wonder of wonders, a beautiful teasel. Can't wait for that to flower. No, 9 teasels. More rosebay, willow herb. Wood avens, all manner of sedges and grasses. I wish you could hear the buzz, because it's Ace. Hello, Mr. Teasel. What is going to happen in there?
Oh, I'm not sure if Helen's in the webinar, but John, please pass on our thanks for that film. She's also done a few more, which we'll hope to post somehow through the FSA blog and the follow-up to this webinar. So Helen's story is that site she's been on for 2 years, and she found it as a mass of nettles and brambles, and as she said, had to cut those paths through, which might be something we're facing on our sites if we go back after this length of time. And I think what we're trying to do tonight is, obviously that can be daunting, it can be, you know, scary at times, it can be exciting. So when we're thinking about our sites later in the breakout groups, think about what challenges you might expect or be seeing, what maybe some of the opportunities this wildness is bringing, and ways we might deal with that, manage that, or overcome that if there are challenges. So I think Helen showed really nicely there that challenge of impenetrable bramble and how beautiful cutting back, and the diversity that has grown up. So thanks to her for that. She's also the coordinator of the Worcestershire group, if anyone's interested in the Worcestershire local FSA group. I was just I work on a site in Oxfordshire, a smaller site than Helen's, I think, in a primary school grounds, West Kidlington Primary School. And I've just got a few pictures to, oops, sorry, here we go, share with you. Here we go. And I was just trying to reflect for today on sort of what my feelings were as I walked in, and here we go. And some of the things that I've been thinking about for today and talking about with other forest school leaders. So if you've got a body of water, we all know the challenges of duckweed. So that's always the immediate site in the pond we have. But this is about the size of a tennis court, this little site within the school grounds. It's not very big. And obviously the challenges of you know, keeping the light going into the pond, keeping it clear. What we tend to do is involve well, the children want to do this. They want to scrape that pondweed off, and it becomes quite a long-term activity throughout the summer anyway. And then there's so much joy in rescuing the tadpoles, and all the animals get caught up as they scoop it out, and we put it on the edges of the pond there, and it all finds its way back into the pond. So rich with learning about the wildlife at the same time as managing the pond. We were chatting earlier about the use of barley straw. We haven't used it in our pond, but I hear from others that can be really helpful when we're in the breakout groups. Hopefully between you all, you can be brainstorming some of these solutions. so we have a little extension to our site. It's no trees, but we've let the grass grow. So fantastic long grass we found after we had a break of 6 weeks. We've been working with key worker children recently, so it's not been the whole 3 months of lockdown that we haven't been on site. But even so, the paths that are usually snaking around this area are gone, and we were straight on our stomachs. You know, we were tunneling through that grass. It was absolutely fantastic. Gingerly avoiding the many frogs that had moved in. So again, we've got the excitement of these wild areas and the challenge of not causing too much impact on these new valuable habitats, and where the wildlife has definitely moved in while we've been gone. Maybe some of the solutions could be zoning. Some of that we've already decided. Half of this beautiful long grass we're not going to go into with the children. We had a chat about that all together in our group to protect it. So yeah, this amazing magical moment I definitely felt walking in again after a long time away. And as I think Helen said it in her film clip, the buzzing and the bird song and the whole site vibrating with life. So while we haven't been there, everything has been, especially for the springtime, nesting and reproducing. And you know, take that time, that opportunity to sit and observe what's changed, where wildlife has moved in where it hasn't before. And I was amazed at the number of nests. You know, we'd always had a couple of nesting birds, but we had triple that. Yeah, fledglings zooming past our ears pretty much. It was incredible. So just taking time to see what the animal behavior is, where are the animals choosing to nest when it's wilder, and the impact of all the layers on the ecosystem. So the increase in mini beasts and snails on the forest floor, and how the other layers of the ecosystem are benefiting. Obviously, paths are usually trampled and very clear with the children going through them. We've looked at brambles on Helen's site. A great opportunity for management with the children, getting the loppers out and using those cuttings as a resource, nettles for making lots of things, and brambles, looking for the new species that are coming up, and just that lovely tunnel effect, which we've never had on our site before, that it's really exciting. But how do we keep that? You know, how are we going to keep that wildness on our sites? And we've decided to clear certain areas, but try and keep other areas wilder. So that's what we're doing on our site. Some of these heavily used areas, we don't move our site around. So like around by the fire and on some of the paths that were getting very eroded over this very wet winter, really recovered well, even in a short 6-week break. And again, making that decision, are we going to sacrifice those again, try and protect them, move them? And we've kept a lot of the grass in around the fire, because it's good at holding the soil together and making it more resilient to the children around it. This is not my site. This is Sarah Walker. I'm not sure if she's in the webinar this evening. She's up at Stonesfield Primary School in Oxfordshire, and I was walking around her very even tinier forest school site in her school grounds, and she was observing new plant species coming up, and a young elder there, and discussed with the children what were they going to do to look after those plants. And the children have been putting in these fantastic fences themselves, learning how to fence. So, you know, sort of working with the children all the time on these management dilemmas, deciding with them how we're going to do it, learning new skills. I thought that was a great example. Great. So that's a bit of a whistle stop tour of some of the things I've been observing and others. I think one of the things the FSA director Sarah Collins observed a few weeks ago was that actually in this time we've got, some of us have had more time, it's a good chance.
Very good, you coming up?
It's not as a good chance to observe our sites and also update our management plans if we can. I know it's always that job that falls off the list. So I'm going to hand over to Elsa, because at Sylva Foundation we have got a tool called My Forest for Education, which hopefully can support you to in reviewing your management plan, or doing a new one, or updating it.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, so yeah, I'll just share my screen. So many of you may have seen this tool before, but for those of you who haven't, this is the Sylva website. So Sylva is a forestry charity bringing trees and people together in lots of amazing ways, and there are several resources for educators on the main Sylva website. And the one we just wanted to highlight that might be really useful for those of you who are thinking more about management at this time is the My Forest for Education tool. So you can just find a link to it in the chat box, and it's also just clearly linked on the Sylva homepage. So this takes you to the Sylva suite, where you'll see there are different kinds of My Forest. And the one that you want is the one specifically for educators, which Jen has developed. And we recently updated it a little bit. So if you've used it before, it might look slightly different. This was after feedback from a lot of forest school leaders and other people who were using it. That was really helpful to improve it. And there are lots of videos on the site which show you how to use the tool. And I just wanted to highlight under the guidance at the top, you can find a specific help page for My Forest Education. So if this all seems incredibly techie and strange to you, we've tried to make it as simple as possible. And really, there's a step-by-step guide here, which is a PDF that you can download, and that takes you through step-by-step how to use it. And the key feature of My Forest Education is that it's helping you to map out your site and to create features on your site that can then help you to create a management plan if you don't have one already, or to update an existing management plan. So if I just show you the step-by-step guide, the first thing to do is to do a survey of your site where you'll be mapping the key features just with pen and paper. And then you log into the Woodland Manager, which looks like this. It's basically a Google Maps based tool, and there are lots of different ways to add features and create a map of your site. So that's a really helpful step-by-step guide that we made. And there are some other useful resources on here that we just wanted to highlight quickly, and I'm aware we don't have that much time, but hopefully if it intrigues you, you can go away and have a look. So one of the things is Tree ID. There's a nice Tree ID tool here that you can take a look at. And there's also this really handy ecological impact assessment guide that we made, which was really based around what the feedback from forest school leaders was that they really wanted more help with, more guidance with. And I'm aware that it's also part of the training that it's a requirement that this is done, but it's also just a really useful thing to continuously do while you're on your site and as things might change. So if I just show you this resource. So we've organised it into the negative and the positive impacts you can have on the ecology of your site. So the activity and the impact of it are listed in the left-hand column, and we've put in some photos and the management actions you might want to take. So a lot of these are impacts that happen with heavy use of the site by you and by children, and some of them are kind of more general impacts as well. And so it's useful just to have a look through that and see if any of them might apply to your site. For instance, one thing that could have happened while you weren't on the site is that if you've got a lot of tree guards, plastic tree guards on newly planted trees, and there's been an increase in wildlife, more of them might have become broken, and that's obviously more plastic entering the ecosystem that you might want to avoid. So just things like that that might be helpful at this time. And then if you're inspired to start some new projects, there's also some ideas of positive, really positive impacts that you can immediately have on the ecology of your site. and these are listed in the second part of it. So things like creating ponds, creating new deadwood habitats, promoting plant diversity in different ways. And it's just a starting point for your imagination, really. It's not meant to be a comprehensive guide at all, but we hope that it's helpful for you when you're beginning to think about more management actions that need to be taken. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was these tree health guides that I created with the Forestry Commission tree health team, because we noticed that there weren't any tree health resources out there that were specifically aimed at educators to help you to recognise pests and diseases on your forest school site or woodland site, wherever you work, and that could aid you in first identifying it, but then knowing what to do and whether or not you need to report it, or if there's management actions you may be able to take. So they're really to try and help empower leaders such as yourselves to know more about pests and diseases. So if I just show you the example of the ash fact sheet, I've basically organised each one. They're available for 4 of the most common broad-leaved species in the UK. So for the ash one, I've identified, obviously, ash dieback is the major threat to look out for, but for some of the other trees, there are several other pests and diseases. And then there's also emerald ash borer, which isn't present yet, but which is something to be aware of. And then I've basically said, what to do if you suspect you have it. And there's some information at the bottom about pest and disease reporting and reporting to this online tool called Tree Alert, which is not a compulsory thing to do, but it really helps the Forestry Commission to gain a greater understanding of the distribution of pests and diseases. So take a look at those fact sheets. If you have some of these species, ash, oak, horse chestnut and sweet chestnut on your site, and you want to know more about the pests and diseases that might be present. And yeah, there are also a couple of other really interesting websites that Sylva hosts. The Timber website, which has lots of resources for educators, which Jen's brilliantly put together over the years, so you can have a look at those. And there's also this woodland wildlife toolkit that Sylva have created in collaboration with a lot of other nature conservation organisations that helps you basically put in your postcode and it tells you what wildlife might be present in your area. So if you're looking to gain more knowledge at this time, and feed that into your management plan, which you can do with My Forest Education, that might be really helpful. So all of these resources should really handily link together. That's the aim. And if you have any questions about them, can they email you, Jen?
Yes. Yep, jen@sylva.org.uk. Yep, emails on the website. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Can I, and yeah, thanks to Elsa, because she did put those all together single-handedly. So she's been very generous in her mentioning me, but that's all 3 months internship, and having never done educational resources before, hats off to you, Elsa, because we're all really appreciative in the sector. So.
And can I just interrupt you there, Jen, also to highlight the comments in the chat box there. There's a lot of appreciation there for some really fantastic resources there. So thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen, I interrupted you. Jenny, are you happy to? I'm just conscious of time. Were you going to move on to the questions for us in the breakout room?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, just before we go into the breakout rooms, we wanted you to, make sure you got things out of this webinar for your own site, so you're walking away with ideas and inspiration and troubleshooting and support, as ever in the forest school world. So we've got 3 broad questions for you to discuss. So the first is, what are the positive and negative impacts of lockdown on your forest school site? So just to share amongst you, those of you who've been in already, or those of you who haven't yet and are thinking about it, and share how you feel about those as well, the excitement and the terror combined and use this opportunity to support each other. Secondly, what might be some of the upcoming challenges and opportunities for you and your forest school site? So we haven't really talked about that yet, but it may be in some schools you may be experiencing some pressure from the head to have more children in your sites, or to be, you know, upping forest school sessions because of social spacing. How are we going to cope with that? What are we going to do? You know, we are experts of our sites, so let's help each other work that out and be prepared. And then thirdly, yeah, how might we overcome any of these challenges? Sharing our ideas. What are you learning about yourself in this process and your forest school practice? I've learned a huge amount I didn't expect, and it's always nice to share that as well. So I think we said about 20 minutes in the breakout groups, and then we won't have time to feedback from each group, but you're gonna
I feel
ask.
like there's something wrong in my chest. Because like if I breathe heavily, then it...
Right, so, sorry Jen, I was on mute there. Yes, thank you very much. We may just be able to catch up on a couple of bits of information from a couple of the groups. So when Nick puts us into the breakout rooms, if each group could please assign one person, well, not assign someone, if someone could volunteer to take notes in a Word document as people are chatting, so that then that document can be added to the link when it goes out as a resource to the membership. That would be fantastic. So Nick, do I hand over to you now to do your wizardry? Zoom wizardry.
Yep. Okay. So popping people into breakout rooms now. Here we go.
Anything that's just running in your mind right now, any worries, just letting it flow out on your exhale. And in your mind's eye, imagining you as you may be when you're returning to your forest school site, or perhaps you've returned already. And you're visualizing your site, the place where you work, the place that you love, the place where you love to work. And feeling in your body how you might be reacting to being back at this site. Is there any anxiety, any fear, any worry or joy, happiness, laughter, gratitude, just whatever you're feeling, letting yourself feel this. And now just switching that image to visualize what you might like your site to look like in 6 months' time. In 6 months' time, when you've been back at your site for some time, if you have one, or perhaps if you're a forest school leader in training, you're thinking about your journey with forest school and how you're imagining it to be in 6 months' time. And feeling that in this place you are feeling really empowered, really safe in yourself, and really supported in all of the ways that you want to be. And just breathe that feeling in. This is the way that you want it to be in 6 months' time, however that looks for you. And visualizing too that the children are returning into your site and they are feeling happy and safe in their sovereignty, in their personal empowerment as well. Perhaps there are certain projects that you really want to bring to completion in 6 months' time, or ones that you're just starting now. This vision is really how you want it to be. And then finally, just moving that to a year's time. How do you want it to be in a year from now? So in June 2021. And as you're visualizing this, feeling the sun's rays coming down, entering your skin, this beautiful summer of June 2021, and all the potential that that's holding for you and the children you work with. Feel these sun rays entering your heart, feeling your connection with nature, feeling into why you want to be a forest school leader, an educator. And visualizing that you have roots like a really strong tree that are grounding you and holding you and supporting you. Your roots are going down deep into the ground, receiving all the nourishment that they need from the soil. And as you breathe this energy up into your heart, feel also that there are branches expanding out into your consciousness, your new projects, your new ideas, your new visions. That you're an expansive tree, holding all of these elements of your life in whatever balance feels right for you. Taking some more deep breaths to just ground this energy in your heart. And then slowly just returning to your space where you are, maybe putting a hand over your heart or somewhere else on your body to just reaffirm that you're back in your body, bringing this vision back with you. Opening your eyes and feeling yourself in your space. Thank you.
Thank you, Elsa. I just have a brief opportunity now to share with you all some of the common themes that have come up in the breakout rooms. Lots of wildlife. Wildlife has moved back in, it seems, in a major way while we've been away from our sites. As has more litter, unfortunately. The challenges that are associated with the COVID guidance and tree diseases, but there may be opportunities to build links with other site users or community groups. Some other feedback that came back to me has been about the brambles taking over and the need to cut them back. But actually there's lots of uses for bramble, cordage, tea at this time when it's in flower, barrier to slugs for protecting veg and saplings. The opportunity of self-made hedges, and that barley straw really does work with duckweed, and trying to leave more wild areas, which will be a challenge with lots of use. Yeah, as we move back in, I suppose it's keeping that balance, isn't it, between the wild and the used. I think that's there's one more there. Yes, litter, more litter, change of site, brambles taking over, children being surprised at changes, and needing to work slowly as well, and the challenge of the dryness at the moment as well. Thank you all very much for that. Now, Jen, before I thank you and Elsa. Do you now want to do you wanted to thank, or shall I thank you two first? How does this work?
You go for it, Prue, and I'll just
Okay,
end.
fine. So on behalf of everybody, Elsa and Jen, thank you so much. I know from the chat box and certainly from the chat room that I was in, and indeed from the feedback that we've had, it's been a really, really fruitful evening and incredibly useful. And thank you so much for providing us with all so much to think about and so many new tools that we know that are there that we can use online to help us as we go back to our sites. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. And I want to return the thanks. This is quite an emotional week for me. It's my last session on Friday in that Forest School site I showed you after 7 years. Hundreds of children, as you all know. I think you're the only people who really understand that I probably won't stop crying on Friday. No fault of the school that I'm leaving. Also leaving my job at Sylva, just new chapter ahead for me now. So working with the Forest School Association since 2014 on My Forest for Education, it was definitely a joint initiative from the start, and it was born out of forest school practice and forest school training and lots of forest school leaders as guinea pigs who helped form it. So I'd say it's, of all my working life, been the perfect partnership between Sylva and Forest School Association, and will continue to be so. So although I'm moving on, there's a great will in the team at Sylva to carry on the partnership and keep improving My Forest for Education and bringing, you know, the worlds of forestry and education together. And I will miss so many things I will miss about working at Sylva, but mainly sitting in lots of meetings, and John will know this feeling, and lots of you know this feeling, national level, where people get the wrong end of the stick about forest school and we can put them right. And I have said time and time again, if you want children to learn about woodland management and sustainable forest management and caring for this planet, I'm sorry, but forest school is the only way to do it. I'm completely biased. Obviously, there's other good outdoor learning out there, but it's been I've been really proud to represent forest school at a national level, as well as doing my own practice locally. And so I may be leaving Sylva, but I'm definitely going to stay involved with FSA. And again, this evening has just reminded me what an amazing community we have in this country. I've done a little bit of work in Canada recently, and it wasn't until I did that I realized that other countries just don't have this, and they really respect the FSA and everything we're doing and the amazing work we've done. So anyway, I'll stop now, but just to say huge thanks to all who I've worked with, and good luck to you all.
Oh, and Jen, I hope you can see the chat box. There's a lot of good wishes coming your way in the chat box. So we're just after 9 o'clock, and we reached the pause, if you like, the comma in the evening. So if you do feel you have to go, thank you very much for being with us. For those of you who are happy to stay until 9:30, there are 2 options. There's John, we're doing connections and things and poems and sharing songs and things. John, I haven't explained that very well.
It's just a chance to share anything really that might have come up for people, and the topics over the last 2 months have ranged far and wide, but often have included a little bit of poetry, singing, readings, whatever as
Fantastic.
well. So
thank you. So you can
chance
either
to share stuff.
So we can do some sharing with John, or I will be with Jen and Elsa, chatting more about the management of our sites. Nick, are you able to explain? Something funny happens, we all have to leave and then some of us go back or something. Is that still the case?
And welcome back, folks.
So I'm back, but
sorry, Elsa.
I'm back, but Jen is not here. I think she might still.
Oh, she stayed with John. She'll be looking for the button.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is Fru stayed with John as well? No.
I can't see her.
No, she should be here.
Oh, there she is.
She should be here. Okay, I shall go and see what's. Jen's coming back.
I'm here.
Through.
It's like being a Star Trek, being like zapped around, isn't it? The weirdest thing.
Just so people are aware, this portion is still being recorded. So the breakout room with John isn't being recorded. This is. If you want to turn your cameras off, now's the time to do it. Also, you can all unmute yourself. There's only 18 of us here, so you can all unmute yourself and chip in. Okay?
Thanks, Nick.
I'll leave it to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, so anybody got any general questions, anything in the presentation, or just want to, you know, this session's up to everyone. If you've got any or specific questions, fire away or give us a wave. You can.
Jen, could I ask a question?
Yeah. Is that
if I work in a school, so would I just join Forest Education? Would I just join as the school then?
Yeah, well, when you're signing up to My Forest for Education, yeah, you can put your name and the school. It's just the registration is really just security, so you can get in and out of your account without anyone seeing. So you can put any email, any password that you want. If you want to share that with others to access the management plan, that's fine. Unfortunately, we haven't got a system where you can have a dual access. So if it's a school email and a password you want to share, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. No worries. Anybody else? We started getting into some nitty-gritty about hazel coppicing in our breakout group. That was quite fun. We got so much expertise amongst everyone. Has anyone got any specific issues or?
Yeah, I've got a question, Jen.
Yeah.
I've tried to use your site before on several occasions, and I've just been having a play now.
Yeah.
And is there a tutorial like on YouTube or something how to use it? Because I just cannot work it out how to, you know, I've been trying to find my location and save it, and it keeps whizzing me back somewhere else. And I know that I've got frustrated in the past, and I'm just wondering if there was a tutorial that would help me go through it online somewhere.
Well, as Elsa said, I think that's covered in the.
Yeah. So the first thing to note is that you are using a tablet, aren't you?
Yeah, I can use it on my PC, but I was just in the garden, so
yeah. And actually, I mean, the Sylva IT team are pretty hot, but there may be some bugs on tablets. So if it's something that's keeping on happening to you, it's always useful to email and let Sylva know about that, because it could be something that could be improved. But if it's more general, like how to use the tool, I made a series of I neglected to show those. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll just share my screen again. I made a series of videos which are in the guidance section. At the bottom, if you scroll down, there's video tutorials, and I show you how to do pretty much all of the things that you can do with My Forest for Education. So from getting started, adding your location, I think is in there, and adding compartments, features, maps, data, all of that. But if there are little glitches that keep on happening to you, it could be that it's a device cross-compatibility issue that Sylva don't know about.
Okay, all right, no, that's great. That's great. As long as there's something, once I get onto my PC, I'm sure that it will make more sense and work probably.
Yeah, I think it is probably designed more for use on a computer at the moment, but that's definitely something that could change in the future, because it kind of it requires a lot of kind of point and click kind of technology that might be a little bit more challenging to do on a tablet. But again, that's definitely something where the tool could be improved actually. So
in the future, but yeah, no, that's fine. It's great. Thank you, Elsa. I can check that out. Thank you.
But do keep the feedback on it coming, because I'll still be on my email at Sylva, because I'll be doing a bit of freelance work for them, and our we've got a help. I think there's a My Forest help email on the My Forest system that goes straight to the software developers. So they always want feedback, because sometimes glitches do happen that they don't realise. So yeah, and hopefully, fingers crossed, one day we're wanting to get or they're wanting to get more money in to give it another revamp, you know, make it even better for users. That's always on our minds. And today's survey is going to be really helpful for that little poll that you did at the beginning. Any tree angst out there? The trees don't give us angst. We just have angst about them.
Birds in the background, Jen.
I know, honestly, as well as the forest school site being overwhelmed with bird life, our garden has, but that's mainly because we haven't really cut the grass very much. We've decided rewilding is the way forward. So yes, no, the blackbirds are almost 2,000.
I wondered if there are no more specific questions, and there may well be, so I don't want to jump in with this unless you know, we've got the time to do it really. But I was just interested in terms of what we've learned about ourselves and our site through the time and our sort of responses to it. I don't know if that's something that people want to share more with here, or if there are more questions specifically about trees and their maintenance, then obviously let's do that, but I'm not sure that there are.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I don't have a site at the moment, but having worked on lots of them in the past, I'm aware of certainly my local woodland and walking through there, you know, kind of the local woodland's hammered by people constantly, and people just haven't been going to it. And now they can travel, they're jumping in their cars and travelling, so I've still got it to myself. It's fantastic. But the great thing is that I'm walking through with the eye of a land manager, because that's what I did before I was here. It's kind of very, very much a case of looking at the site and looking at the potential that's there now without the trampling, without the footfall, and looking for ways to minimise the impact that we have on that. Obviously, I can't do that in this woodland because I no longer manage it, but you guys in your woodlands can. But you'll also find that there's lots of new stuff there that you didn't even know was there. So it's now is the time really to take stock of what you've got before you start cutting everything back. And it might mean that you need to move things around slightly, but you might find that it's massively rewarding in the long term to do that.
Thanks, Nick. I can see Sarah's got a hand up.
I'm work on a bit of woodland that's on the edge of a golf course, and the clubhouse is part of an Elizabethan hall. It's really lovely, and find out the history of it, but the woodland itself is just tiny. It's on a slope, there are houses above it and the golf course below it. It's just really tiny, but it is very, very special. And the one thing I've learned today is that about the sweet chestnuts. We've got sweet chestnuts in the wood. I didn't realise there were diseases to look out for, so now I'll be going and having a look at my sweet chestnuts. But we have like a bank of stitchwort. We have a patch of the names are going to go out of my head now. We've got a lot of wood anemone. It's a bluebell wood. The bluebells all up one bank. It's really interesting, and I've been in there 8 years. And to look, almost to do an almanac, I guess, over the years, each year, to see what's happening and to see how the wood kind of pushes us about a bit and makes us take different paths and, you know, at different times over the 8 years. And then how these patches of wildflowers are sustained and how they move about. And today it's given me a bit of confidence. I've never wanted to do any kind of gardening in the wood, but it has given me a little bit of confidence about the brambles and about maybe we could be a bit more bossy with the brambles. Because of all these, although it is so interesting, somebody was talking, weren't they, about chopping back brambles on one of the forums, and I've noticed that the brambles, they don't come up high till quite late in spring. So all the spring flowers in my wood are there before the brambles, and then the brambles are at the highest in May, then they flop over, then they're there for quite a long time. So I guess cutting past through brambles is better after the fruiting, I guess, in midwinter where they're at their lowest and easier to attack. But I've looked at the Sylva site website and resources on and off over the years. I really love them, and I've never quite got round to doing the mapping, which I am intending now to do again. But I do really like looking at the website. I find it very helpful, and the information on there. It was a bit random, sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Sarah. Bari.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of discussion about this.
Oh, I'm struggling to hear you, Bari. Are you able to?
It's funny. Computer. Let me try.
Jiggle. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just take things in and out and it works better. Yeah, it's just there was discussion around the sort of, you know, the wildness of forest schools and things, and yeah, about actually letting the children kind of form their own pathways and finding their own ways through it, and actually they can negotiate things like brambles quite well, and then come the winter time completely changes anyway, so you get those more free open spaces. So it's just sort of managing, you know, working around it and things. I think I've always sort of been quite protective of places and not trying to keep them as wild as possible, and sort of noticing what, you know, we are doing to sites and things, and making sure we're kind of doing that balance of, you know, well, we've got to have fun here, but, you know, we've also got to look after it. So yeah, quite often things just normally work their own way out, really, you know. Obviously, if you can't actually get into the entire forest because it's blocked by brambles, you might need to cut something, but yeah.
Thank you, Bari.
There's
Just
also
one
that
other thing, the antisocial users, or the kids that leap over the fence in my wood. We've been there so long, 8 years. The kids that we would have initially taught would now be between 14 and 24, 21, which would be the age, I guess, of these people. But they left all their beer bottles and all their gas canisters in a very tidy bag for me to clear off the site for them. So I like to imagine that we've taught them that over the years.
I just want to say, Sarah, lucky you. I have to clear those up myself. That's great. So it's interesting though, because one of the things that I actually learned, really on reflecting sort of in the breakout room actually, was that usually over a summer holiday, I actually lose a connection with the woodland that I use, and it's only a 5-minute walk away, because I'm so busy taking teenagers left, right and centre. And actually through lockdown, although I haven't done forest school for sort of 12 weeks, I've never lost the connection with the woodland, because I'm up there most days because I've got the time to walk there. And actually it's helped me learn that actually over summer holidays, I'll still need to be going up there each week just to sort of keep a little cheeky little eye on it. And as you say, so just to keep on top of the litter, because I think that's sometimes where I've lost a huge connection, where I haven't been up there for 6 weeks, and when I go back to it, it just looks so awful. And that actually going back each week and just kind of keeping on top of it, it doesn't look so completely different or it wouldn't look so completely different when I went back to it eventually. So that's my takeaway from tonight. Apart from all the fantastic resources, I'm sort of telling myself, even through a 6-week break, I need to keep going back to the woods.
Just one thing I wanted to mention in the presentation and forgot was I've tried to have them my initial reaction when I went into the site when it was all overgrown, and I started thinking about cutting and and then I sort of stopped and I thought about NEP and the rewilding project there down in Surrey. If any of you have had the chance to go, or please put it on your list to go, it's amazing. And then I thought, we are basically the lumbering herbivores in the woods, and we're going to crash around and squash some brambles and, you know, turn over the soil and all that good stuff that would be happening in the ecosystem normally. And to sort of put that mindset on made me feel better about obviously we were coming back in and we're going to make an impact, and that some of our management doesn't have to be all straight lines and cut back, and, you know, as sometimes we fall into that, or I fall into that. And it just, yeah, I thought, here I am, the lumbering herbivore, and that's what they do with the brambles. They squash them and then things come through. And so, yeah, reading a bit about the rewilding that's going on and some of the theories behind that is also quite helpful in our management, I think.
Jen, did you say there was a particular project in Surrey that you'd visited? I'm just wondering if you're able to put the details of that in the chat box. Or
so this whole rewilding discussion that's been going on for a few years, a lot of it's come out of a farm in Surrey called NEP, I'll type it, K-N-E-P-P, rewilding project. And they're about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, 25, 30 years ago. They were a traditional farm, you know, pouring pesticide and chemicals and everything onto their crops and trying to manage a dairy farm and losing money hand over fist, and kept scratching their heads and there's a teddy, realizing they were, you know, this just wasn't working. And they had quite poor soil. It's quite critical factor. They didn't have great soil anyway for farming. And they also had money to invest in a very radical idea to turn the whole farm over to rewilding. So they fenced it. I can't remember the acreage. It's quite a big farm. And saw a project on the continent, I think it was Holland or somewhere, who were doing the same, got lots of inspiration. And it's been an amazing, huge ecological experiment, and you'll all love it. Every forest school leader will love it. It's like walking into an African savannah of literally herds of deer and herds of cows and pigs everywhere, and butterflies and bats, and oak trees popping out of clumps of brambles, and very challenging. Everything about it is very challenging. And they've got safaris. You can book in for a bat and moth safari or a herbivore safari. You can camp there. There's a bit of wild swimming. Very sustainably run, and they're very open. They're very reflective. They want people to challenge them. They haven't got all the answers. They just keep getting the experts in to come and measure things and monitor things, and all the experts walk away astonished at the number of species and everything from the cow poos to having, you know, 20 different dung flies, because there's no antibiotics in the poop. You know, it's just, the whole thing is fascinating. So yeah, their website's great, and if you can get a visit when they open up, then they even had a forest school leader on their staff. So yeah, so it very much fits with our ethos at forest school.
And thanks for putting the link on as well. That's helpful.
They are actually making money from the meat there, so they are still farming, you know, but tourism is a big thing now. They've opened up to it. Yeah, could talk about it for ages, but yeah, it's a good, definitely put it on your wish list. Anybody else?
Thank you, Claire. Claire's just put there, they've got a book, Wilding.
Oh yes, there we go. Well done, thank you.
Matt, your cousin's in charge of the stork project. Are you sure? Are they bringing babies in the stork?
Yeah, so they've got a stork reintegration project, and they've got webcams and things. Yeah, they've just had babies. It literally is. When I say it's up the road for me, it's literally like a 2 mile, 3 mile walk up the road for me.
Really? Are you inviting us all to come and stay then?
Definitely, absolutely. It's incredible. Their wildlife safaris are incredible.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. I've just seen in the chat box from Karen, there's a question. What would your advice be to someone that has just taken on a woodland that hasn't been used for forest school before and will be used 3 days a week for 3 to 4 year olds all year round? Thank you, Karen, for the question.
Elsa, did you want to jump in, or shall I start and you follow?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I suppose my instinct would be to, like Nick was saying, really get in the woodland and you know, observe what's already there, what, you know, wildlife hotspots, if there's particular areas of habitat that you think, you know, should be protected or looked after. Yeah, and get you know, do your management plan before they come in, you know, and have a think about some of the impacts that might happen once they start coming in and how you're going to manage for those. And yeah, and I think it depends on the size of woodland, sort of thinking about maybe zoning where your paths are, or, you know, like Vari says, let the children find the paths initially. Think about if you're going to move a fire pit around or have a temporary fire pit or permanent place. Yeah, I'd sort of work my way through that handy guide that Elsa's just produced, the ecological impact assessment. That's quite a good prompt for thinking about a lot of these issues that might crop up. And then it's monitoring, really, because so 3 days a week, so that's a fair jump, isn't it? It's a big jump for that woodland to go from presumably not many people, to a regular 3 days a week. Yeah, the monitoring through that first year, taking lots of photos each season, the befores and afters, and use, rope things off and protect things if you think they are being impacted. And don't be afraid to reduce the numbers or the days if you're the expert again. It's your decision, and talk people through those decisions if you feel concerned. Yeah, Elsa, Elsa, anything else?
Not really. Just to say that you could also seek some advice if there's anything that you're not sure about from professionals or from local volunteer groups, things like this. If you have a Google in your area for local botany groups or ecology groups, or linking up with other forest school leaders in your area would be really helpful, and see if they could come out and help you look at your site and help you to create your first management plan. And with my forest for education, just seeing in the chat, there's some suggestions coming in from others there. And with my forest for education, you can create kind of plans over time and like goals for each year and things like this that you can update. So that might also be helpful to you if you can kind of add to it and build upon it as you go along, and as other ecological impacts might come in. So that might also be a useful tool for you to look at.
I'm about to lose my power. Is that helpful, Karen? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I can see you've just said you're still training for your level 3. So I'm not a forest school leader, so I don't know this in great detail, but it's my understanding that with the tool that Jen's created, the printout that you get from that is what you need for that ecological impact assessment part of your level 3 training, right, Jen? So that can help you to complete that.
Yeah. And if there's a manager of the woodland, I don't know if it's a park or a public forest or a private forest, if there's a forester or anyone who's already done a management plan, it's worth trying to get in touch with that person and walk the woods with them. I guess, as Nick would have been in that role, because they're, the knowledge of how the woodland used to be managed or things that they were intending. If you can find that person, that's always great to understand the woodland.
Yeah, it's really, really important, and they will have a management plan already written, probably, if they're a land manager, which you can borrow from. Cut your work in half. If it's already done, why reinvent it?
Yeah. and often those people can be great once they understand. Again, this is what I've said countless times, to the forestry world, that we, forest school leaders can speak the same language as the foresters, and we do understand about planning and managing, and we can work well with we're not just bringing the kids in and out again. We care and we steward the forest with them, so it can be a really nice relationship sometimes if that person understands, and a lot of respect, I think, is built up out there now for forest school because of that, knowing that we're not there to trash the woodland, but we have the same aims. A lot of woodland owners really impressed that we do this training.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you to everybody for their contribution in the room that I was in. That was a really helpful little forum, I think. So we're all back together, and John, are you trying to speak to me? You look like you're
No, I just wonder whether you want me to do my usual.
Yes, I do want you to do your usual. Thank you. John is going to lead us in a way to end together. Thank you, John. And or should I say it again just now, huge thank you again to Elsa and to Jen for all your input. And it's really clear that it's been really, really valuable for a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Can I just say thank you to Elsa for the music at the beginning? She let us play her music, and that's her singing. So in the chat there is her link as well.
Oh,
Brilliant.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Nick.
Can I say big thanks as well? So yeah, thanks to both of you, and for Elsa. First time we've met, so you're a natural. Thank you for coming along and doing that. And a massive heartfelt thanks for Jen, because I probably won't get a chance to do this formally in a formal group, because we've worked together for years now, with the Sylva hat on and everything. People sometimes forget how much people do behind the scenes, and a lot of unpaid time as well, and all that passion that's come through. So it's been, for me, an absolute joy and great learning journey just being with Jen over these last few years. So thanks very much, Jen. So I'm actually going to finish with a poem. I know Maria just asked for a song. We'll get a song next time, but I thought I'd finish with Mary Oliver because I thought this was pertinent to tonight. I don't know how many people have come across Mary Oliver. I think I've read a poem of hers once before. She, for me, is the natural world contemporary poet. She died last year, but her poems are just so simply structured, but just get to the heart of things. So I've picked one of her poems, which is pertinent to tonight's topic, which is all about weeds. Okay. Or what people see as weeds. So here's a bit of Mary Oliver just to finish off tonight. It's called Just a Minute, said a voice. Just a minute, said a voice in the weeds. So I stood still. In the day's exquisite early morning light. And so I didn't crush with my great big feet. Any small or unusual thing just happening to pass by. Where I was passing by, on my way to the blueberry fields. Maybe it was a toad, and maybe it was the June beetle, and maybe it was the pink and tender worm who does his work without limbs or eyes and does it well. Or maybe it was the walking stick, still frail and walking humbly by, looking for a tree. Or maybe, like Blake's wondrous meeting, it was the elves carrying one of our own on a rose petal coffin, away into the deep grasses. After a while, the quaintest voice said, "Thank you." And then there was silence. For the rest, well, I would keep you wondering. Just a minute, said the voice. And thanks to Mary Oliver. And thanks to you all for coming again and supporting this, because the forest community is only as good as everybody that comes along. So hopefully we'll see you at the next one, which is all about ecotherapy in a couple of weeks' time. So, which sort of obviously weaves its way into the topic we had tonight as well. We'll see you again, and yeah, the stuff will be sent out hopefully by the end of the week.
Friday.
There we go. The goblin will have done his work by Friday. So thanks, Nick. Big thanks.
Yes,
to Nick
huge
for doing
thanks to
all
Nick.
this. He does all the work behind the scenes. So yeah, and we'll see you all again.
Thanks all. Night night.